Hello and welcome. Happy Tuesday. And I'm with you. I'm your host, Michelle, for another episode of The Healing Home. This is episode 4. And before we get all started, I just have to give a shout out to the band who's allowing me to use their music. It is Blackwater Holylight. They're from Portland, Oregon. And that song is The Protector, and it is off of their album Veils of Winter. And that song is really special to me because every time I hear it, from the first time I heard it, I thought of the herb motherwort because they're talking about like in the trees, you're going to find the protector of the forest. And they also talk about like erecting a throne for the goddess of the forest. And I always think of mugwort when I think of a goddess in the forest. So, anyway, shout out to them and thank you for allowing me to use that song. And with that, I am very excited because today I have with us Elise Frosh from Family Fungi and the Great Mother Birthworks. Elise is a doula. She's a birth expert, natural birth enthusiast, homemaker, or she's not a birth expert, I should say. She's a birth keeper. She probably wouldn't even want me to call her an expert. She's a birth keeper, natural birth enthusiast, homemaker, and mother. Her passion to help other women find and experience the beauty of pregnancy and embrace their natural instinct to nurture life is profound and deep. So I am just very excited to talk with her. I first got to meet her on Vibrant with Chance, and then she had an Interverse interview back in October. And I was just totally taken back by her knowledge and her honesty and the way that she stands in her power with her calling to be a doula and to help other women bring life into existence into this realm. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Elise and welcome her into the healing home. Hello, my lady. How's it going?
Hello. So great. It's funny you brought up you say mugwort or motherwort for the song?
I said mugwort.
Mugwort. I've been
Yeah,
thinking about that herb lately. And you
interesting.
just saying that, I'm like, oh wow. What a think.
Nice. So welcome. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful. I'm so excited to be here and really just flow with this conversation.
Nice. I feel the same way. And so, what I'm thinking too, what I didn't say in the beginning is that if at our hour mark, if you feel like you need a break, if you want to take 5 and get some water, go to the bathroom, just let me know. And I can always catch up with the chat and we can see if there's questions out there or whatever. So, I'll let you know when we're at that point and then you let me know how you're feeling. All right.
Sweet.
Cool. So, if you wouldn't mind, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became interested in natural birth and what you do as a doula.
Nice. Howdy. My name's Elise. I actually hadn't even ever thought about birth in my life until maybe 10 years ago or so. One of my friends thought she was pregnant and she was like, have you ever heard of a doula? It's someone that you can just talk to and they'll ask about your poops and check in on you while you're pregnant and at your birth. And then I just started looking into it about what it meant to sit with a woman in birth and what birth even is. Uh, I had always heard that it just hurts and you'll want to get an epidural and get that sucker out of you because my sister had to get like the salad tongs on her head and pulled out of my mom. And I would always hear that story and just how nonchalant it was and almost funny to call them salad tongs. And yeah, that was about the depth of birth that I was. And then when my friend brought up this concept of a doula, I ended up finding a program from this woman, um, Wapio Barnett from, what is it? Oh man, I can't even remember her program. The Matrona program, that's what it is. And it's about quantum birth and how birth, within birth, you reach altered states of consciousness. And I had been familiar with altered states of consciousness through meditation and psychedelics. And so this coming into my field after I just heard a doula, someone that asked about your poops, was insane to me. I was like, wow, I feel like I'm on the right path. And I ended up calling a random birth worker in New Orleans just because for the certification, you need to go to a birth and just shadow someone and see what it's like. And so I called this random woman up, had no idea who she was. I just wanted to shadow in a birth. And she had graduated from that program. And so the synchronicities with this, it ended up, the certification ended up being in Georgia, like an hour away from where I had friends. So I was able to stay with them and go to this paradigm shifting certification group, like it. And it was funny because after, she was like, you just paid me to give you a sheet of paper, you can do this work within yourself and you further your research, and you give other people sheets of paper, like do something you can create. And that spoke to me so deeply. And but yeah, her whole what she teaches is about birth as an altered state of consciousness. And that's what it is. I feel like you go through these depths within yourself, uh not just while you're in labor, not just active birth, but the whole time through pregnancy, conception, preconception, pregnancy, uh the birth, and then the postpartum. Your life is sacred. Your everything can be a ceremony if you let it. Everything can be this rite of passage if you let it. And it's almost as if these things wash over you rather than you initiate yourself. And so if you allow life to initiate you in the way that is meant for your individuated self, then everything just flows. It's like you're in a river.
Yeah, I love that. Oh my god. What a brilliant way to teach other people too that she has going on. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I mean, that is one of the most important lessons in life too, to realize that like it all comes back to us. You know, you can get help or ask for help or learn from all these outside sources, but until you're taking it back to yourself and integrating into your life, it's like you can have millions of teachings all over the place. But if you're not integrating it and like knowing that you rule this, you're the one that actually is going to take this and create, then yeah, it's going to be kind of a hard road. So that's great. I mean, off the bat, I could see why you were totally intrigued by that because I would too.
Yeah. 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 And she even said, like, if you've had an intense psychedelic trip, you can sit for a woman because you're just being a witness. And it's all the women in there had home births. One had a hospital birth and she had a terrible time, and that's why she came over to this natural birth route. But Wapio actually spoke at the Freebirth Society Matriarch Festival this past year. And whenever I saw she was on the lineup, I was like, oh, dude, she was totally teaching free birth. Because she was like, you don't have to do anything. As a witness, do not do anything. The woman will figure it out. If she wants to birth under a tree in a rainstorm and you think that's a bad idea, let her do it because that's what she needs. Do not touch her. I mean, these aren't her words, but it was, do not touch her, do not interfere. Let her be. Let her be. If she wants to be touched, you'll know. And that's like you reach this psychedelic point with a woman in birth, or if you are birthing yourself, where you just know what's going on. It's like mind melding. It's as if you're just sitting for her body while she goes into altered states of consciousness, and you're able to just hold her and give water. Like I was sitting for this woman, and as soon as she said, I have a cramp, I grabbed her leg exactly where the cramp was and just started massaging it. And it's things like that happen where I see I see why women, I'm like, I was going to say, I see why women need this. It's not that you need this, but the knowledge of it, where we can get in these altered states of consciousness and reach this space within ourselves where uh, you all just know what's going on. We're all
Yeah,
just walking each other home.
Totally, and that's beautiful because I mean, from experience now, I have never given birth, and but I've been witness to two births in my life with a friend of mine. And I'll say that it felt that the way you described it is the way I felt, not even knowing, having had no training, just having had her ask me if I wanted to be a part of it and if I would be willing to help her with her placenta preparation and all that stuff. I was like, whoa, well, yes. And I remember going and feeling kind of like, well, I don't know what to do. And I just remember thinking to myself and feeling like you'll know exactly what to do when to do it. And it was a lot of that, like Joanna needs water. Okay, something is going on. She might need a little assistance. Her back hurts, this and that. It was just like I was there to serve. And it felt almost kind of like there's this queen energy that comes that you're there for the
Yeah.
queen. You know what I mean? And it was just like, all right, whatever she needs, whatever the queen needs, it's she gets it. And it's like not even in a selfish way. It's like this is when a queen would need it is right in that moment when she's about to be giving birth. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's really beautiful. I love how you look at it too, of just like women helping women, because a lot of times in society it's hard to even find that, and to be able to just hear it from you and the way and that being the way you come at this is like really beautiful. And I think that you can be an inspiration to a lot of other women in all sorts of ways by just maybe somebody hearing that, you know?
And it goes into also the different states of being a woman. So maiden, mother, crone. And as a maiden, you figure out your likes and dislikes, who you are, what you want to be. And you also have the mirror of the mother. The maiden helps the mother. So you have that mirror of how to care for things, how to clean, how to cook, how to be a homemaker, and how to teach children and be with children and have the childlike wonder that a mother has with her children. Um, and then the crone gives gives the wisdom back to all.
Totally. It's the beautiful cycle. Yeah. And so I wanted to I you kind of answered this question, but like when you realized you wanted to be a doula was kind of when your friend brought it to your attention, you went to her birth, and then you were finding these teachings. But for people that don't know, could you explain the difference between a doula and a midwife?
Yes, so a doula has no medical background at all. A midwife is um, so you can be a private midwife and then you can be a public midwife. So the public midwives are under the medical boards of your state or county, or in our case, parish. And a private midwife would be someone like Indie Birth, those women, Marin, and I cannot remember the other woman's name, but those are the two like well-known private midwives. So they work through PMA, so they do not have any hindrances with the medical system. Um, so midwives are medical. They have all the kits and tools and medicine, like actual like they can carry pitocin and they can have oxygen tanks and so yeah, they're medicalized. Doulas and birth keepers, we know the physiology of birth, how it naturally occurs, but we don't have any interventions, like medical interventions. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, and I mean, I remember too, I mean, like, cause the midwife, um, when I was with my friend, like they were able to like sew her up and all these things. So it was just like incredible. I mean, I my mind was blown so many times during this because I was there and I'm just like watching all I was just an observer and remember thinking how incredible it was that these women had the ability to do all this stuff without being in a doctor's office, without going to a hospital. And it gave me faith that you can do this kind of stuff. It gave me more confidence, even as an herbalist, to just know that we have these abilities and you don't need the authority of a surgeon or a doctor or whatever to show you this stuff. And so I feel like that's why this information is it's not suppressed, but it's also not like wildly talked about. You know what I mean? It's like if
Yeah.
it's talked about in certain circles, but it's definitely not talked about, widely or whatever. And I think it's because they don't want people doing this. They want people dependent on having to feel like they need to go to a hospital or what have you, because then it also just like made me think about all the other things besides birth that you can take care of on your own, like stitches or even setting a bone if you know how to do it correctly. Like these things that are emergencies, that no doubt emergency medical attention could come in handy or whatever. But I do remember you bringing this up with Chance and how like giving birth is sometimes looked at as like an emergency. And
Yeah.
you saying it's like the exact opposite of that. And I think just like the home birth concept just really drives that home, no pun intended. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And I just think it's so empowering.
Yeah.
And so when did you realize that you wanted to have children of your own? Because you mentioned that birth wasn't even in your mind or whatever. Was there a moment? Was there an event? Was there a child you met? Was it meeting James? Just, yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'm the youngest. I had always been the baby. I never took care of a child ever. And having a child wasn't on my radar. And then I met James and I fell in love with James. And I was like, oh, I could totally have your babies, like 100%. And we got all of our traveling out. We went to Nepal and lived there, and then we traveled in our tiny house all over the US. And maybe a month after we got home from traveling, uh, we conceived Joffrey. And I had already taken the doula courses and attended a home birth, and I knew exactly how I wanted it to happen. And so it was just building my confidence to tell other people that this is how it was going to be. Because I went to the hospital whenever I got I took a pregnancy test and got an ultrasound and confirmed. And I was going to a hospital that had a natural birthing center, and they have nurse midwives at this birthing center. And I went to maybe 2 or 3 appointments, and I just broke down. I was like, I can't. And the midwife, she was so sweet. She was so sweet. She was like, "Oh, are you just pregnant? Like, are you just crying?" And I was like, "No, I don't want to be here." And she looked at me, and I was like, "I don't. I know I can do this. I don't need this. I don't want to be here." And she's like, "Oh, okay, you can do it. Like, yeah, you can totally do it. I just saw a video of someone that gave birth in a tiny house. You said you had a tiny house. Like, yeah, I'm just going to put you down for another appointment so they don't hassle me about it. And just don't come. Just don't come again. And don't answer the messages and have fun."
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, yes, it was. And then I looked up midwives in my area and found this one. It was seriously the first one that I found. I was like, cool, that's the one. And I called her and she came over and she seemed really sweet. And I went to go sign something and she went to grab a pen out of her pocket and she pulled out a stick of Palo Santo. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Yep, this is it. And then I just had to tell everyone else. And I think the point of another point of home birth and having a natural lifestyle that is looked at as alternative, these confrontations that you will inevitably go through are there to challenge you so you can hone in your will and strength and be able to stand up for yourself and stand up for what you believe in and know what you believe in and not be lukewarm. Like, really, really get into yourself and what you know to be the truth and not let anyone shake you. So you tell the people that'll be the easiest first. And you're like, okay, cool. Like James's family didn't care. They were like, oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, totally. You can do it. Yeah. And then it was telling my family. And my sister is a NICU nurse. Um, and she's seen a lot, like neonatal ICU nurse. I can't even imagine. I can't imagine, actually. Like, I can't imagine what happens and what babies go through. And I know what happens. And it's traumatizing for everyone involved.
Oh yeah, I believe
So
it.
yeah. And so I uh told my family, and they were not happy. They were like, and then my parents got their friends. They had some friends over for dinner. One was a labor and delivery doctor, and the other was a paramedic. And I'm pregnant, and they're just going in on me about how bad of an idea it is, and how you don't even know what happens in birth. Like, you don't even know what women go through. They you need to be in the hospital because you could just bleed out and die. What if your baby dies? What if you die and your baby dies? Are you gonna leave your husband? What if or you die and your baby lives and now there's a bit. It always goes to this, like, it always goes to this absolute horror of what if, but what if, and what if,
Totally.
you know what I've seen? You don't even want to know what I've seen, but I'm going to tell you what I've seen. Like, that's it. That's it. It's the same script for everything. It's comical looking back. In the heat of it, I was crying at a table, being like, I'm pregnant. Stop it. But when you do that, then it becomes this victim mentality, and you also have to overcome that. Um, I think the reason why hospitals and people go to hospitals to give birth, and then people go to the doctor all the time, is just a victim mentality. It
Yeah.
Like, you want someone to do something to you so you can be the center of attention, which I get. I was the baby. I love attention, but not the way to do it. And so yeah, and I was just like, I'm doing this no matter what anyone says. I cannot go into a hospital to give birth because I know what happens in a hospital, and I can do it. And that was the end of it. And then my mom met the midwife, and she felt so good, because she was like, oh, she has almost the same thing the doctor has. Like, sweet, you're not just gonna die. And I was like, no, I mean, I will die. And that never went over well. They were like, yeah, but not now. I was like, you just never know. Probably not, but you don't know. And being comfortable with that is also a part of birth. I had 3 dreams while I was pregnant with Ja that I bled out and died. And in each one, I was just like, I love you. And it was only love. Like, I did this because I know it's the best for you and for me. So yeah, you gotta know that you're gonna go. And so while you're here, you can really have fun with it and
Yeah.
reach your highest self and highest potential. And that includes getting completely stretched across the realm. And that is what birth does. It breaks you open and breaks you down, and not in like a beat you down way, but it allows all the things to fall away. That's how I look at first and second trimester nausea. I look at it as a cleansing um, before the medicine. So if you take uh, in ceremony, if you take psychedelic medicine and you purge, you're clearing yourself for this medicine to come in and help and change and alter and do what it needs to do within you, or show you the way. So that is how I view the sickness in the first 2 trimesters, is a purging to cleanse you for the beauty that has already taken a hold of you. So you go through these portions, you You might be sick, you might not be sick, you might just be super fine, and that's great. I was
Yeah.
fine with Manu, I was sick with Ja, and whenever we found out I was pregnant with Ja, um, we got a Berkey water filter, and the box that it came in said purified the natural way. And that was my throw up box beside our bed. And I thought it was the best thing.
Dude, that's awesome. That's beautiful. I've never heard anyone say, how about like that morning sickness is actually you purging. That
Yeah.
makes total sense. Especially too, just how you were saying, like you're going into different states of consciousness while you are pregnant and going to be giving birth. So I mean, that is just like nature confirming all of that right there.
Yeah. And when you flip the script in your head, it makes it more like it makes it bearable. You're not like, oh God, why? I can't eat anything, my heartburn, everything. It's like, oh, I'm a vessel. I'm a vessel for the most divine thing that's happening right now. There's a human building itself inside of me. So some
Right.
stuff's gotta go.
Yeah, as
Good
always,
things can
right?
yeah.
Did your family, after you've had 2 successful home births, have they, changed their opinion on it? Do you think that they just kind of accept it now because you guys have chosen to do that? Or, what would they say to somebody else that they met that's doing that, do you think?
So my mom was there for Ja's whole birth, and we lived at their house while I was pregnant. So she saw the whole thing. And I labored over there whenever I was first laboring with him. And she thought it was the most beautiful thing. It healed her. Seriously, she's like, if any moms are scared, I'll talk to them because it's like she still gets teary eyed. She's like, it was so beautiful. She cut the cord, and it's funny
Oh,
because um, my mom can worry, and so whenever we were talking about doing the home birth, I was like, I might not want you there. I just want you to know that, like, I might not want you there. Um, and if I do want you there, I'll let you know, but just don't come. I don't want I don't want the vibes. I don't want any bad thought coming in my sphere. So sorry, I love you. And she understood. And then whenever I was in labor, I was sleeping on a like camp recliner chair. Sorry. Because like my back hurt so bad. I couldn't sleep. So they put me in this nice little recliner chair so I could sleep in there. And after I laboring for like 4 or 5 hours, I woke her up and I was like, Mom, I need you to run me a bath. And I had back labor, so I didn't even know I was in labor with Job because I'm looking back, I'm like, oh, you totally know. You just weren't. I was scared um, because it just felt like hot knives in my back. There was no uterine contraction. There was nothing in my front. Ja was posterior, so he was sunny side up. Ja and Manu both, but I ended up turning Manu, or he and I turned together, and yeah, so it was just like 1,000 hot knives in my back, and it was so intense. And I was like, "What's going on?" Like my back hurts so bad, and but it came in waves. It came in this rhythm, and she ran me a couple baths that night, morning, and then I just started throwing up. Couldn't keep anything down, and she called James over, and she went to work, and James, my parents have a pool, and he stood behind me with an umbrella in the pool so I could labor in the pool for however long I wanted to. It's so sweet. And then my mom, when she got home from work, she came over and stayed and was a fly on the wall. And so she saw the whole thing. She saw me push, she saw me doubt and then pull through. And she let me hold on to her and push. Like it was healing for both of us. Cause I was like, wow, Mom, like you were so cool during like cool, calm, and collected. She was like, there were so many times where I was like, she needs to go, and like something's wrong. And she's like, and I didn't say anything. No, thanks for not saying something because it threw me off. Yeah, she fed me watermelon. Her and my sister both fed me watermelon and drinks. And my sister went to go to sleep, and my mom stayed. And she saw him come out, and she saw me pick him up, and then she just tells me how she had no idea. That's how she explains it. She had no idea. I had no idea it could be this way. She had never seen a placenta. So
Wow.
the midwife like showed her like this is the tree of life, and this is where it was connected to Elise, and didn't cut the cord for a while, and so she got to see it pulsing and then lie white. And I was so high, and James was holding the baby, and they were like, "All right, Dad, Papa, you want to cut the cord?" He's like, "I got a baby in my hand, no way." And I was like, "Mom, you do it." And it was such an honor for her to do it, and it seriously felt like healing trauma, healing birth trauma.
No
It was
doubt.
so bright and white and sterile for her, and people just taking taking over you, like they're just grabbling at you pretty much the whole time. And then someone takes your baby and they check them out, and maybe they put them on you first. I don't know if they even would have put the babies on her, because my oldest sister, who is 33, my mom had her in the OR because they used to have babies in operating rooms, and the father wasn't allowed.
Wow.
Yeah, so she had never seen anything like this.
Wow. I mean, that's incredible because you basically kind of just segued into my next question for you, which was going to be, how have you witnessed and experienced the strength of bringing families and spouses and children together through home birth? And you kind of just answered that. I mean, because you just said it. It's like just seeing this trauma being healed, and the fact that your mom, a warrior, was able to calm herself enough to be there to help you. And I guess my other question was going to be for you, like, have you seen the opposite happen with the home birth? Has there ever been like, has it broken a tie or made somebody so uncomfortable that they couldn't even handle it?
I've seen it in other people's lives, but
Mhm.
not in my own. Um, like my sister, that's a NICU nurse. We just don't really talk about it. Like they're just subjects we don't talk about, and it's great. Like, hey sis, how's it going? Cool. And that's how a lot of people are. Like these touchy subjects, they would just rather not talk about. Where you
Right.
see the breakup is between people that care too much about what other people think about them. Um, so they're not just like, too bad I'm doing it, or the partner is against the home birth. And I've seen people be like, "Oh, my boyfriend, my husband doesn't like it," and and that's just an excuse. Like if you don't do something because of someone else, then you didn't want to do it in the beginning.
Right.
Um, but and if it's something as personal as like a home birth, which is why do you want to do this? Well, it's a nat even if it's not spiritual at all, it's like, well, it's a natural way to have a baby. We've been doing this since the beginning of people, maybe. But I won't have to deal with pokes or prods by anyone else. Like it just seems like a good idea. I don't know why I'd need to go into a doctor's office to do this. If your husband or partner doesn't agree with just something as simple as that, then there's a way deeper problem than just home birth. Like y'all are on two different pages, 100%. Um, so yeah, you're
Muted.
muted.
I'm
Yeah,
muted.
there you
All right.
go.
Yeah, I would agree with that because in my opinion, I feel like the hospital birth is there to actually separate more. Just like you said, the father was not allowed in the room,
Yeah.
and then we saw this same thing happen with this scamdemic thing where it was like, okay, you can't come in, or, whatever it is. It's just like the separation of the family is always a theme. And for me, I can't see many other things that would be better for a family than home birth. Because the second one that I was witness to was the same family, but they had two boys that were old enough to know what was going on, and to have them come into the room while their baby brother was being born was just like one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. These two boys just like, "Oh my god, it's my brother." And they weren't scared. They weren't, you know what I mean? They weren't
Yeah.
crying, they weren't ashamed. It was just pure excitement. And it was just like one of the most beautiful things that I've ever witnessed. And so to me, it just seems so counterintuitive that the hospital thing is so big, and it's just this fear-based, control, and there's something wrong with you, so you must go there, and they must put IVs into you and monitor your heart, and all these crazy weird things that just seem so inhumane.
Yeah, and so like in birth, the father has such an important part, and that is just supporting the mother and being almost like this blanket of love and devotion and protection that the father is. And in a hospital setting, and the people whose minds that go to a hospital for this procedure, that they ultimately are going to receive, um, it's looked at as like the father doesn't, you don't know anything. You've never been pregnant. You don't even know what I'm going through. That's where you get the stories where it's like, I yelled at him and I was like, you get out of my face. I'm pregnant. I gotta be. And it's the same thing as like, I eat whatever I want when I'm pregnant. I'm like, that is so not good. It's so bad. Don't do that. I'm like, yeah, like eat well, eat all the time, eat, but eat well, eat good foods. Like, I really wanted a hamburger whenever I was pregnant with Manu, and there's nowhere around here to get a good hamburger. So I made buns and I went and got meat and I made fries. We had pickles. I was getting a hamburger. So it's like, yeah, enjoy it, but don't go crazy and ruin your health and your child's health because you don't care. It goes in your gullet. Like, so same mindset of people.
Yeah, definitely, and that's one of the things that I wanted to, get into, with you is diet, and kind of how you prepared, for your pregnancy, and what you did, during your pregnancy while you were lactating, because, there is the whole side of, diet, the Weston A. Price sort of nourishing traditions diet, and, I wanted to share this book. It is the Nourishing Traditions book of baby and child care. And this is just, it is such a gem of a book. Even if you are not planning on having a baby, or you are just interested in the process, whatever. But she goes through, like, it's basically the GAPS diet. So it's like very high fat, low carbs, low sugar, organ meats, you're eating a lot, but you're not eating, like you said, crap food, because it really does affect everything. And this goes for the father too. And this book goes into how it's like the father should be doing the same thing, because if he's giving you the sperm to create this child, everything that he's doing in his body is going to be received as well. And one of the things that I remember so well about when I got this book, a friend of mine gave it to me. At the time, I was a vegetarian. And so this was back in like 2013 or 14, right? And I started reading the book. And one of the things that the book brings up is that, if you have been on a very nutrient dense, healthy diet, you should probably like expect maybe like you might want to be, there you go. Nourishing Traditions. Beautiful. I knew you'd be into it. That's why I was like, wanted to just go this route. But basically saying like it should take it might take like 6 months to prep your body to get to the point where you are ready to have you have all the nutrients and everything you need to create another life. And then it said, if you've been on a low fat vegetarian or vegan diet, you can expect to add another 2 to possibly 3 years on to prep your body in order for it to be in a place where it would be healthy enough to give, nutrients and things to a baby. And now, granted, everyone's different. There's different blood types, there's different diets. They all work different for everybody. So I'm not trying to tell anyone that you need to not be vegetarian or vegan. If that's what you do, it's totally fine. You can do what you want to do. But when I read that personally, while I was a vegetarian, I remember going, well, geez, maybe this isn't the best diet for me. And at that point, I had been having horrific periods. I didn't know what was going on. It was just whatever. And then I started eating meat again, and then my periods got better. And then we were still in the stages of maybe we'll have kids at one point. So I was in the mindset of like, well, if that's the case, then I am not going to be a vegetarian anymore, because if we are going to do this, I want to make sure I'm prepared. So that was one of the things I wanted to ask you, if there was anything specific that you found that worked really well for you, or that you would recommend other women look into if they're, trying to get pregnant.
Yeah. So one time I thought I was pregnant and I told James, I was like, I think I'm pregnant. I need to go get a pregnancy test. And he asked me why. Why do you need a pregnancy test? I was like, because I need to know so I can do stuff if I'm pregnant, like change. He asked me, what would you change in your life if you were pregnant? And I was thinking, and as I was thinking, he then said, because you should just live your life like that anyways. And I was like, damn, okay.
Bingo. You
And
are my prince.
yeah, but at the time, I had found nourishing traditions. I don't even know how long I'd read the front of it, and I don't know where I heard it from, but I read the front where she gives all, it's like she has like minerals and vitamins and fats and uh fruit, like different fruits and vegetables and beans, and how to culture things and how to ferment, why you should ferment everything. And it shook me to my core. I was like, everybody needs to read this book. Like, you're all killing yourselves with what you're eating. I don't even, I seriously pushed this book into so many people because it changed me for the better. Like, and the whole, what would you change? What are you eating right now that you would change? There's absolutely nothing I'm eating right now that I would change, except maybe bread. But I'm like, it's sourdough. I don't know. And so, like, I used to sprout. We would buy whole berries. I would soak them, sprout them. We got a mill. I would mill them, and then I would make bread. That's how I made Ja's first birthday cake. Uh, it was the Nourishing Traditions carrot cake recipe, and I sprouted the grains. And I told everyone at the party that I milled the flour for it. They were like, "Oh, Elise, ha ha ha!" I was like, "No, seriously, I milled this flour. I sprouted it. I soaked it for days, sprouted it for days, dried it, milled it. It was the best cake ever. People still talk about that cake. So good."
Yeah, I bet. I
So
totally bet.
yeah, fats, like, so right now I put together a menu for a mother postpartum.
Okay.
And it is 3 weeks, 21 days worth of food, beverages, teas, herbs, snacks, anything you could want, anything you could even desire. I got it for you in this menu. And I'm going to cook all of this food and freeze it because the postpartum time is sacred. Like, the birth is great, transcendental, wonderful. The postpartum time is the time you, like, don't even think about the birth. It'll all come so naturally. You'll be shocked that it's over, and it'll be beautiful and blissful, orgasmic even. The postpartum time, you need to be in bed, fed, cuddled up warm and cozy with your baby. And that is it for 40 days. I'm just kidding. But there is this book, got it right here, The First 40 Days of Nourishing a New Mother. And it's got such great recipes. So the recipes for my menu come from Nourishing Traditions and this book. And it's everything in there I would eat, everything in there I do eat in the menu that I created. Um, and really, this book, it takes a like a Chinese medicine route of postpartum, and a lot of indigenous cultures do this. So the woman needs to be in bed or in her chambers for 40 days. She doesn't need to think about anything. She just needs to be there, be with her baby, integrate everything that just happened to her. So a closing of the bones is also something that I offer. And it is grounding back in all of that energy. You just went above and beyond into DMT spirit realm, heaven. You got your baby, you met soul to soul, birthed them into this world, and now you integrate and you rest. And these two books have really solidified that for me, and how important what you consume is. So what you consume is what you eat, what you drink, what you view, what you listen to, who you see and interact with. All of this is your consumption. And that is important across the board within your whole life. And so if there's something that you do right now that you wouldn't do if you were pregnant, or if your wife or partner was pregnant, then you probably shouldn't do it at all, ever.
Yep, that's really great advice.
Yeah. And like, some people will be like, but should I eat? Should I consume caffeine? With Ja, I still drank coffee. With Manu, I didn't even want black tea. For some reason, I love coffee. We buy green coffee beans and we roast them fresh. And on our website, you can order weekly, freshly roasted organic coffee with lion's mane powder in it. And that is what we drink, with an egg in it. We blend an egg, like half a stick of butter, honey. So good. I love it. It's like medicine in the morning. But I couldn't even have tea. It's something about it. I did not want it. And so intuitively looking at what you're consuming, and people ask about raw fish. I'm like, raw fish is delicious. I would always say, what do women in Japan do? Like, what do women in like oceanic countries do? They wouldn't eat fish? That's wild. They wouldn't eat raw fish. Okay, so you've only been to the tourist places. You have not been to the villages.
Yeah.
That's what that says to me. Like, you don't actually know what it means to be alive. And that's consuming food and meat and protein so that you can transmute it into energy out here. We are this whole world, everything consumes something.
Yep, definitely. And then we get consumed by, the earth at the end.
Yeah.
Or the universe, whatever you want to say,
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's awesome. And I feel like the just the Western diet in general, like you said, it's like not good for anybody. But it kind of pains me to know how many people don't think this way when they are trying to get pregnant, or when they are pregnant, or after being pregnant.
Yeah.
I've even known and seen people where they're so excited that they can finally have a glass of wine, that they have their baby's out of their womb or whatever, but they're still nursing. And it's like, well, that's like still, I'm not saying, I don't know, that might be okay.
Yeah.
I'm not claiming it's bad or whatever, but I just always think about these kinds of things, that just because the baby's out of you, it doesn't mean that they're still not connected to you in this way. And I would even kind of like think, even going further than that, like, even though they are out of you, they might be even 4 or 5 years old. I feel like because you are each other in some strange way. What you still consume, what you do, it still affects them, just
Well,
like
yeah,
anyone you're around.
whenever what you consume, your child's probably consuming as well. Um, what the people around you are consuming, you're probably doing, and therefore your child is doing it. So it, and that's why I keep saying it's a whole lifestyle thing. Like we don't have friends that live the way that we do. Um, I mean, we don't have friends that don't live the way that we do because it's just I want to be able to go to your house and eat your food. I want to be
Right.
able to hang out with you and know that what I'm eating, I know that I know what I'm eating. Um, and me not have to be like, oh, ha ha, I gotta shut this. You either shut a part of your brain off to pretend like you don't know, or you confront it. No, I'm not gonna eat that. We all know what's in it. Come on, wow, are we really, guys? Is that what we're doing now? Because then sometimes you could either get the people that are like, oh, you're right. This is bad for me. Wow, yeah, you're right. Or you get the people that say, you think you're better than us? You think you're better than
Right.
us because you're just over there you brought your own water. You're not drinking tap with us? It's so funny because you gotta know. Like, you've gotta know these things, guys. But some people don't. I don't know.
Yep.
Just
Yeah. And I look at it too as like the misery loves company sort of thing, because it's like the
yeah.
drinking buddies that when you stop drinking and then they're like, "Oh, come on, just take one shot." And you're like, "No, I don't want to." And they're like, "Why? What's wrong with you? You've changed, man." And you're like, "Well, yeah, I guess I have, and you haven't."
Yeah.
And you're not gonna. So I guess I'm gonna have to be the one that's like, "No, I'm good." Yeah, it's really interesting. There's all this pressure, there's social pressure all over the place, and I think people are intimidated by other people who stand up for themselves and are able to have self-control and to make these choices and to make better choices for themselves and in turn for their family and all the people around them. And
Yeah.
that's
I
intimidating.
I always give thanks to James because he has very good self-control and is confident and strong in his words, so much so that everyone knows when he says no, he means no. And I kind of I'm like, oh wow. And like, you're okay if people don't like you? He's like, I seriously don't care. It doesn't even cross my mind. I'm like, yeah, yeah, me either, dude. Like, yeah, yeah, who cares? And it's helped me. I always tell him whenever I reflect on Joffrey's birth, I'm like, thank you so much for supporting me 100%. At no point was he ever like, oh, that's none of that. Everything that I have done, he is, yeah, 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 why not? Why not? Whenever I was in labor with Ja, I'd been pushing for so long. I was like, where's this baby at? Joffrey's birth was my impatient birth and the one where I learned about boundaries. Boundaries are so important and vital and lovely, freeing even. And yeah, I asked the midwife to break my waters with Ja's birth, and I was like, because nothing was happening. I was fully dilated. Nothing was happening. He just needed more time. And I didn't I just didn't. I don't know. I didn't know all that I know now. I don't have to explain myself, but I didn't know all that I know now. And I've learned a lot. I learned so much with him. But I remember sitting in the birth tub with James, and I was like, "Oh, what do I do?" And he just laughed. He's like, "What do you want to do? I'm not you. I can make this decision for you." And whenever he laughed, I started laughing too. I was like, I kind of wanted to break my bag. He was like, "Sure, do it. I don't. This is this is your thing. Like, I have all you. It's all you always." And taking that on, like, you're the one that makes the decision. You can't allow anyone to do it for you. And if you do, you give them the power. And you cannot complain if something happens because you gave it up. And realizing that over and over again and taking that power within you and knowing that you're the one that makes the decisions. If you say no, it means no. If you say yes, go for it. So, yeah, learned a lot with Ja and Manu's pregnancy. I didn't tell any of my family that I was having a wild and free birth. They asked me if I had a midwife, and I said, "You just need to trust me. You just gotta trust me. You don't trust me? You don't trust that I'm? Are you getting the? Do you have any? I don't remember what my mom said, but it was like, did you have a meeting? Did you meet with someone about your birth?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, of course I did. I talk to God every day. What you talking about? Of course I met with someone about it. I know it's gonna be fine." And I would just keep telling them to trust me. Just trust me. Do you really think I would put my life in danger? Do you really think I would put my baby's life in danger? Do you think I would just willy-nilly do something like off the cuff? Is that what you think? Well, no. Okay, cool. Yeah, everything's fine. Do I look fine? How are you feeling? How do I look? How do I
Right.
look? What's going on? Are you okay? Do I look okay? Like, always put it back on. Do I look okay? Because I feel fine. And it's so funny because when you put it back on the other person, they actually, instead of being in their mind, they actually have to look at you and assess the situation, assess what's in front of them. Do I look pale, gaunt? No, no. I always. Are you eating well? I always eat well. Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
And think about how many people need to be asked those questions who aren't pregnant. Are you okay?
Are you okay?
What are you doing? What did you eat for lunch? Please.
I know. I know.
And so, yeah, that fear mentality, the projection, which causes anxiety, all of it. It's just so funny that that's where most people go. I mean, to their defense, we're trained to go there, from little children. If you've gone through, the basic system, which is going to school through kindergarten all the way, and then you probably went to college. If you went through that system, and you didn't have people around you that were kind of on more awake to things, then yeah, I mean, you almost can't blame these people. You almost just have to accept them for who they are, have compassion, and just be like, okay, I'm moving on. And I'm not going to
Yeah,
try and convince you that I'm okay,
yeah,
because you might not be okay. And so, why would I sit here and try and convince someone who actually in their own mind isn't okay? Because
yeah.
it's not going to go very far.
I saw this meme once, and it was a bee can't explain to a fly why honey is better than shit. And I bring that up all the time. I'm like, yeah, you're not speaking the same language at all. So
Very
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Well, with all of that, we're at about an hour. So how are you feeling? Do you feel like you want a water potty break or shall we
I'm,
keep going?
I think we keep going.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the chat. So anyone that's in there, I apologize. I haven't come on in because I'm still getting my bearings with all this stuff and I feel like it'd be too distracting for me. So
I
I
know. I pulled
appreciate.
the chat up on my phone and then I set it down. I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah, it's too
Hey
much.
guys.
So, yeah, everyone who's here, we appreciate it, and, I usually roll through the chat after the shows just to see, but I really appreciate everybody hanging out, and I hope you guys are having fun talking amongst
Yeah.
yourselves and all of that stuff. So one of
But
the. Oh, go ahead.
before we go
Go ahead.
forward, I wanted to bring up the medical system and something that you said a bit ago made me think of this, which
Okay.
is we just went through a bout of feeling sick. And Joffrey got sick, Manu got sick, James got sick, I got sick, whole thing. I messaged you about my ear. I messaged Kyle at Tippy Canoe about my ear and the whole sickness and what to do. And the last time we were sick like this was whenever I was pregnant with Manu, and I had this crazy ear infection and it paralyzed half my face. I chose to go get antibiotics and a steroid pack after I gave birth. Because my face was paralyzed and I was scared to death. That's
Yeah.
about it. I totally chose it. I'm not going to say someone made me do it. I was scared. If you've ever had facial paralysis, it's something. Um, but we all got sick again, and I had an ear thing in the other ear, my right ear. My left ear was the one where it got real intense. And it was so painful. I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh no, oh gosh, I don't know what to do. I'm going to have to go. Just fear rolling through my mind. And so I messaged you, Kyle, talking to James, started stretching, doing lymphatic movements, and uh, rolling out my legs, getting my lymph nodes on the bottom half of my body. And I did some heel bounces, tuning fork in my ear. Thank you, Chance. Gua sha. I was everything. I was doing everything. And it was maybe an hour or two. I dropped down on my heels real hard, sent some energy down. My ear popped, didn't hurt. We all ordered your elderberry syrup because Joffrey will sit there and drink the whole bottle. We have to tell him to not do it. Uh, and herbs, onion poultices. I made like a lavender garlic salve for the coughing, and we all got better. And even the boys had super gooky red eyes, and I just did herbal compresses on their eyes and shot them with some boob milk. And it felt like a redemption sickness. It felt like you know more, you have more tools this time. You don't have to just go straight for Tylenol and antibiotics. Like, you have other tools. You can do this. Use the tools. You're not trying to get rid of anything. You are supporting the body in this exodus that is happening. So support yourself, support your family. And I wanted to bring that up because a lot of things I feel that can happen with people that are like, why is this happening again? In birth, you might have some of the same sensations come back. Like, I had back labor for Ja, I had back labor for Manu. And when I realized it, I was like, oh, I kind of got, oh gosh, this is going to be a 3-day labor again. Is there something I can do? And yeah, I did some things. I got my legs behind me. I put like a peanut ball in between my legs, and he ended up flipping and coming super fast and gracefully. It was wonderful. And so if you ever catch yourself in a cycle, it's your redemption cycle. Do it different this time. Make it better. You keep studying and gaining more tools and reading and talking with other people about what tools they have. What do you have that I can use? And I have this. You might be able to use this one. And when we use our tools like that and share with one another, then we can help each other in these redemption cycles to where we don't have to keep repeating the same patterns. You don't have to do the same thing that your mom did or your dad did. Or your friend, or that's just how we do it. We just go to the hospital, and when you feel bad, I don't know. Like, I was joking because my sister's daughter got sick at the same time, and she just went to the pediatrician and got some like eye drops and a bunch of other stuff. And I was like, man, we are those cousins. Like, we don't have a microwave or a TV. We do onion poultices and herbal baths and steam pots, and we go outside and grab some pine needles. We're those people, and that's so great. I think it's hilarious. It feels like you're on a TV show.
Yes, I love that. I love the redemption cycle. That is seriously such a great way of looking at it. And I will say we're those people too.
Yeah.
And we have been for a long, long, long time. And it's really funny. And I like being those people because I just love the sense of empowerment that comes from it. You know, just like hearing you and seeing your expression of explaining what you guys did, I can feel it in you. I can feel that, just like that feeling, that comfort, you knowing that you were able to do it and you were able to help your whole entire family because of it. And now you are like passing that on to your children not even, and they might not even be like consciously being picking it up, but they are, and they'll remember it because it's not going to be the last time you do it. And I think that we're programmed to go right into fear as soon as you feel the slightest anything, the slightest pain. Oh God, what's wrong? And then obviously we know the whole rabbit hole that can happen if you Google something and oh my God, it's horrible, it's terminal, it's this and that, whatever. And it's usually never anything close. And they never really, what's not talked about very much is just the emotional side of illness, and the whole thing with like German new medicine comes into this, terrain theory goes into this, and I'm not going to claim, that I'm an expert on any of it or that I'm like a true believer of any of it, but I think that there's a combination of everything that happens. And I think that it's really wise to be able to just take a second, that moment of just like, okay, you are going to be fine. Because whatever is coming up, it's something that's coming up to be healed. So one of my first questions for myself is always, what's coming up to be healed? It might be a sore throat, it's an earache, it's a knee, my knee hurts, whatever. Something's coming through that's wanting my attention. And that's now the first place I go to, because I used to be more in the mindset of I would get nervous. I'd get scared and think it's the worst case scenario. And then Mario would always come and be like, you can't do that to yourself. Like, you're sabotaging yourself if you're going to come in here and just think that this pain you feel somewhere is going to be like the end of you or whatever, or you're not going to be able to figure it out, kind of thing. And that's just come with years of training myself to get out of that, and then having faith in the universe, in the plant world, in my own self, that we are built to heal. It's just like what it is. And every little thing, every little experience that we have just like helps us along the way, and then it helps us help other people, to realize the exact same thing. So not to fall into fear with anything.
Yeah.
Anything at all. And so one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was placentas and the consumption of them. And I know that this could be like controversial for some people or whatever, but it is something that has been done for so long, and it's done in the animal kingdom, and we know that there's benefits. But we also know, and I've heard stories, and I think you even mentioned this on Chance's show, that like there actually can be, it sometimes doesn't sit super well with every mom. And so I've even heard of mothers experiencing an inability to lactate once they started taking a placenta. And this, I just heard this from my friend who I helped with her births in the past. She actually kind of just reached out recently telling me that with her last pregnancy, last birth, which was their fourth child, she started taking her placenta and then she stopped lactating. And then she kind of just put two and two together. She stopped consuming the placenta and was able to produce milk again. So I thought that was really strange, but I wanted to get your opinion on that whole side of this universe here.
Yeah, so Ja's placenta, we were going to bury it under a tree. And I had it in the freezer until I knew exactly where I wanted it to be, uh, what tree I wanted above it. And Hurricane Ida came, power was out for 2 weeks, and it is now buried in a landfill from dust to dust. I'm like, it's in the ground. I know, dust to dust. It's really okay. Gave it back to the earth on that one. And with Manu's, um, we put it in the freezer, and then James listened to a Interverse podcast where Gabriel and Chance were talking about the placenta. He's like, Elise, you have to listen to this. And so I listened to it, and they were just talking about the placenta being a key, almost it being information that you and your child created. It has the tree of life on it. So the infinite ancestral wisdom could possibly be contained in this cake that comes with your child, like a nice little present. and the consumption of that can give this information back to the child and make them a whole. I have no idea. I'm butchering this. I'm very sorry.
No, you're
This
not.
is
You're
not.
totally not butchering.
I'm like, this
No.
is not what. I don't know if these are the exact words that they use, but this is how I consumed it, and now I'm able to give it back.
And that's what I want to hear about. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So this being information. Okay. So I had heard of this through this artist on Instagram. He and his wife, they had a baby, had a home birth, and he took methylene blue and drank the placental blood and had visions of his whole ancestral timeline, her whole timeline, and it coming together in this one baby. I had heard that while I was pregnant with Ja. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. James, you gonna drink my blood? And he was like, I really don't think so. I'm not feeling it. And he's like, if I feel it, maybe, but as of right now, nope. And so that was about, and then we dropped it. Nothing happened. He didn't drink my blood. Nothing, none of that happened. And then this podcast comes up, and I take my placenta out the freezer because I just think I got to do it. And then I saw Najla and James posted their placenta capsule recipe on Instagram. And Najla gave her commentary on it. And I was like, oh, Najla's doing it. I got to do it. I was like, I get it. I know the cool people want to see him. So I got it out of the freezer and started chopping it up. And I made a little print of it and then started chopping it up. And I got this, something came over me. I was like, I want to eat this. Like, I want to eat this. I had never been like, oh, I want to eat this. Yeah. I was like, I'll do capsules. Sure. I've heard of people making lasagna and stuff out of it. We don't do nightshades, so there was no lasagna happening. So I was cutting it up and I ended up putting it in a smoothie. Not all of it. I took 3 pieces of each part. My side, the tree of life, and the cord. And I made a smoothie with it. And I drank like half the smoothie. And I was like, okay, I got what I needed from that. And I ended up bringing the rest outside and dumping it on where I thought we were going to put our house. And now swing set's gonna go there. So it's perfect. And then the rest I dehydrated and encapsulated, and I started taking it, and I had these waves of anger coming through me, and I had heard stories of women getting angry, and I don't know if that primed me or if this is just what came through. Like, I almost couldn't help myself. I was angry at James and Ja, and I'm like, he's 3 years old. Is a 3-year. I mean, if you have a 3-year-old, you know what I'm talking about. But not malicious. And I was getting so angry and irritable and anxious almost. And I started talking with my friend Shelby about it. She has a nonprofit called Solar Unraveling, and she does womb mapping. I told you about this. And she does like CBD suppositories and different womb health things. Sorry, Shelby, but that's about what I got. And she was helping me unravel what was going on inside of my own mind. And it came out, what if you're healing something? Like, what if this is a fire that needs to get burned hot? And what if this is something ancestral? What if this is something that happened to your mom or your grandmother or your great grandmother or way down the line, or of the collective as a whole? What happens to the placentas and the babies and the mothers and the industrial hospital realm? And once I got that script, rather than a nice scroll, rather than the script of I'm just angry and I'm just, I don't like this. It's the placenta. I'm tossing it. I worked with it, and that felt it. From there, I felt like I could heal something. it didn't feel like I was having anger rush over me. It felt like I was moving with it. I was dancing in the fires. Um, and it gave me a lot of clarity because I was allowing it. I was allowing myself to be like hollow bamboo, and it just sing through me. Uh, and I don't know if that's what some women experience. Your friend with the lactation, I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Because when you first started telling me the story, I was like, okay, well, what is her diet like? I mean, she's had 4 kids, so obviously she knows how to do this. Um, and then it's starting back up whenever she stopped taking the placenta. Maybe it's like her baby didn't need it. Like that was her baby's karmic uh cycle here is like I don't need this information. Thank you. You can honor me a different way.
Totally, that's a
Uh,
good thought.
and I also read I think I sent this post to Chance so I can look it up in our conversations and send it over to you just so you can look at it. But it's about placentas not needing to be buried, but placenta burial as almost like an information card for this realm. So you give that part of yourself and your child back to the earth, and then the earth can use it to give back to you. And I found that interesting. I was like, whoa, it reminds me of like a computer chip. Uh, and you have to give this information back. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that. I like it because, I mean, the more and more I think about things, it's just like everything's connected, I think, and everything we do affects everything else. And I also, this makes me think about the thing that I've heard a while back. I think it was Mario that it came to his attention that he told me, but something kind of along the lines of when you birth a child, you're almost like birthing your shadow in a way because your child is going to bring these things out in you that is probably going to toy with your shadow work, whatever you want to call it, your traumas, your thises, your that's, the things that get you. A lot of times your child might be the one that brings it out in you. And so maybe the placenta has something going on like that. And it made me think of when my friend told me that, it's like, well, she's okay, this is her fourth baby. She's consumed all placentas for all the other births. What if it was like, you've had enough? I have enough to share with her now, and you don't need my placenta or something like that. I don't know. I mean, who knows? But I like the idea of the burial and it like giving information back. Because I like to do that even with plants. Like when I'm done working with a plant and you compost it, I always just like I send it back to the mother to be turned into something positive. That's like my whole like mantra with it because you're allowing it to just be reabsorbed. And for whatever happens, if it comes back as another plant, as if it has transcended and comes back as a person, whatever happens, there's this information that you share because it came from the earth. So it came from the earth to bring it back. And that's really seems to be very important.
Yeah, but I want to touch on the idea of shadow work because this is something that I bring about in the Great Mother Birthworks is everything that you go through preconception, conception, pregnancy, birth, postpartum. You will have these thoughts come up. And which I mean, I'm saying that and I'm like, we all have thoughts come up. But just I'm so emotional, no one understands. Oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on. Like, what do I do with my baby? Where do I birth? Who do I want at my birth? I don't want this food. I want this food. So the emotional aspect of birth that a lot of people know of through a negative light of like, oh, you're just crazy pregnant lady. Like, oh, you just had a baby. You're so hormonal. Oh my gosh. I view all of these as ways to meet your shadow. And it's beautiful that they happen because you're allowed to, you get your redemption cycle. I remember with my midwife with Ja, I was like, oh, ha ha ha, I'm having like a mental breakdown, but I heard birth will just break you open and it'll all get better. And She looked at me like I was crazy. She was like, "You need to get your shit together before you give birth. I don't know what you think. Yes, it can be this blissful orgasmic state, but you need to be in a blissful orgasmic state. If you have not encountered your shadow self or done this work, it can come up like with any psychedelic trip. Your bad trip is you meeting those parts in yourself. Your bad pregnancy and birth and postpartum are those meeting those parts of yourself. Um, and you can't blame anyone. Why? I thought this person should take care of me postpartum. Did you set it up? Did you take the responsibility? Like, you can't just assume people know things. Did you ask for help? Did you put together a postpartum team? Did you put together a birth team? Were you just mindlessly going through pregnancy? Were you just mindlessly going through pregnancy? Like, you didn't care what happened, you didn't care what thoughts came into your head. Because these things do affect the child, and the child will mirror them back to you. I feel like whenever they're first born, they're just like taking in so much information, and then at some point it reflects back out. And then they say something that you said whenever they were a small toddler teetling around, and you're shocked that they remember it. And then it's like a part of you that you really don't like. And then now you have to deal with that. All the things that come to the forefront in your mind are things that you need to deal with while you're going through this transformational state.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's great advice from your midwife telling you that.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. Because it's just like anything. It's just like, well, once I get this job, my life will just be great. And it's like, well, if your life's not already great before you had the job, all those same problems are still going to be there. Your new job isn't going to be the thing that just changes everything for you.
Yeah.
You
I
know, it's
heard once, if you're not happy with a cup of coffee, you won't be happy with a yacht. And
ah,
we always remind each other of that, because you need to be happy where you are right now, content.
totally.
Like, find, I mean, you don't have to be happy all the time, but if it doesn't cycle into your daily emotions, I would say something might be a little off there, and something needs to get switched up.
Yeah, I would totally agree because it's like when these things come up too, the further you push them away or the more you avoid it, you hear it all the time. It's still there. It's still going to come up at some point, and it might come up at the worst moment. And is there ever a good time for any of this kind of stuff to come up? You know?
I always say that. I'm like, dude, there's never a good time, because it's always the best time. Like,
Y-
you gotta just do it. Uh,
yep.
And so, with that, I want to touch on why I call my offerings and services the Great Mother Birthworks.
Yes.
Because through these initiatory states, it's like you're climbing a mountain, going into these altered states of consciousness, and then you go into the spirit realm and birth your baby, and you come out of this threshold almost, and you have now embodied the Great Mother, the one that births it all. You go through the Dark Mother, and if you don't recognize it as an initiation, you can become lost. If it is not recognized as an initiation, you can become lost. So if you know it, you're like, I am now a mother. I am the Great Mother. I just did this. It's so powerful, giving birth. But everyone else was like, oh yeah, did you take 2 weeks off, 9 weeks off? What's going on? When you coming back? Oh, okay, can I hold your baby? Like, what are you doing? If other people don't recognize this, then it also diminishes that state of embodying the Great Mother. Um, and so I feel as though it's important to remind women that it is a rite of passage. It is an initiation. It is something that needs to be honored as that, because it will suck you dry if you don't. Because honoring yourself in that way is giving yourself love and nourishment deep within your bones, and also giving that to your baby. Um, your soul and your mind has gone through a complete transformation. And so you have to honor that and know that you are different and you're going to look different. You're going to feel different. Your mind will be different. Your thoughts will be different. Now you have a little baby to think about. My mom came and got Ja and Manu to watch them for this, and Manu left crying, and I was like, "How is he?" Like, oh goodness. And she said he stopped crying before he even left the driveway, and I was so worried. Um, and you have such a depth of emotion, and without seeing it as a ceremony, you lose the magic in it. You just think you're crazy. You just think that you're hormonal, you're going through a depression, you're something is wrong with you. And nothing is wrong with you. You're just feeling how vast it is to be alive, to be human, to be the great mother. Like I imagine the great mother like birthing the realm and all that comes with it, which is pain. Like you will the love that comes from having a child and giving birth, where you have what society has hammered into your mind is like the most painful thing in the whole wide world. Like it's so we put shockers on men to make them feel how we feel, how bad it hurts. Like, oh, you're like lashing yourself while you're saying it. It's so ridiculous, and it doesn't have to be that way. Your life doesn't have to be so heavy. You can see the beauty in it. You can see the beauty in the sorrow. It's same, different sides of the same coin.
Wow, that's great. I love it. So if women want to work with you and they're, they're starting this journey of pregnancy or what, everything that goes along with it, where can they find you and get more information on how to connect with you?
Yeah, my Instagram is the Outpost Homestead. You can message me there and I can speak with you about my offerings and what I do. I offer consultations. Um, and we can do work via video, phone call, text me. I'm here. I got kids, so but we can work on it. Uh, but I'm on the Bertaria Times app, the what am I? Mother Nature Bear, um, and also through familyfungi.net. You can email me there if you need me. But yeah, woman in the Interverse chat, Liberian. She's also a bear. She she was pregnant and her midwife was scaring her and telling her that she pretty much just couldn't do it. Something's wrong. You got no fluid. The baby's, I have no idea. It's so crazy. The things that they just tell women. And she called me about it and I was like, oh girl, you got this. Like, don't even trip. It sounds like you've taken in your midwife's story. And she was like, oh, I don't believe anything she says. And had a beautiful home birth with a baby. No midwife, because the midwife thought she was broken. Um, and that's my main thing is reminding women, I guess people in general, that they're not broken. You don't, just because you've had bad things happen to you or you've had some type of trauma, you don't have to carry it with you. Um, your body, as long as you take care of it, it wants to heal itself. It wants to be better. It doesn't stay in a state of absolute broken puddles. Um, you are strong and cared for and healthy, and your body knows how to work. Like, we didn't just have babies and them fall out of us and women be broken to pieces. It's a place of strength. Like, but you see how he's got a big old head. It's like, yep. I don't know how it happens. It's funny. I posted something today, and it was a meme about my dream Christmas party. And it was like women have tallow cookies and thrifted sweaters, and they're drinking kombucha someone made, and they're sharing sourdoughs and talking about the birth of Jesus and the birth of and their births, like their home births and stuff. And I remember I haven't read this in the Bible, but I heard it once and I'm like, I'm sticking with it. But so I'm not really quoting. But I remember learning, I went to Catholic private Catholic daycare, middle school, two different private Catholic high schools my whole life. Um, and they said that when Mary gave birth to Jesus, it was like light shining through a window pane. And I always bring that up. And they're like, "Oh, that's Jesus and Mary." I'm like, "Yeah, it's the mother and the son. Like you you can do that too. Like you too are a special boy. Like it when you think that the power is out of your hands, then the power is totally out of your hands. But if you allow yourself to be this energetic, strong woman, so much comes through it. Like you can't be afraid of your own power." And I feel like a lot of people are. And so they put themselves in this lower victim mindset so that they never have to take full responsibility for what this place is and then how we act within it and um, can enact our desire and will upon this realm.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I am just seriously loving talking with you. I feel
Thank
like we
you.
can talk forever because I think, wow, all these things that you're bringing up, I'm like thinking of all this stuff, and it's helping me to segue into something that we've talked about in our own personal conversations. But the whole idea of the sister wound, because when you're saying all this stuff, what you're doing, in my opinion, is you're helping to heal sister wounds that are happening because you're showing other women, you're being there to show them that they can do this, to stand in their power. It's okay. Nothing's wrong with you. So a lot of people may have never heard of the sister wound because I had never heard of it until you talked about it. So if you want to just explain just a little bit what that means, and then we can kind of just riff a little bit on that one because I know that you and I both really love going into that space.
Yeah. So the first time I heard of a sister wound was actually like a perverted, inverted way of explaining it, which was when you set boundaries with other women or with things in your life. I guess mostly with other women that you're enacting this sister wound. And the woman that actually taught me about a sister wound was like, the sister wound that I had. Um, and I actually just realized what it was fully whenever I brought it up to you, which wasn't that long ago, maybe 4, 5, 6 months ago.
Something like that. Yeah.
Whenever a woman is inside of her own traumas and lack and victimhood, she projects it onto other women and thinks that they're out to get her or they're mean or um, jealousy comes up. Jealousy, anger, all of these things arise within the sister wound, and you make the other woman the reason. You make the other woman the problem. And that happens when you're um, coming at the world through a victim mindset, uh, or you have some unhealed traumas within you. And I gained clarity on it whenever I was with another woman that felt like I was being a bad guy. And I wasn't doing anything wrong. I can genuinely say I was chill. And
I
she's
believe
coming
it.
at like I'm not here to work against anyone really. I'm just like, come on guys, you want to come over and hang out? Um, not everyone because boundaries are important.
Exactly.
So so yeah. Um and a lot of women feel this like what's it called? You're competing. You feel like you're competing with other women. You feel like you need to be the one on top. And I think it's also a mate thing. Like you will talk about another woman to make yourself feel better, maybe so you look more appealing to a partner or a job or other friends. you don't feel important. You don't feel your innate specialness. Like everyone's special. Like you're not the only special boy, but you are special in your own. You're the individual is very important because the individual can bring about what nothing else in the world is or has. No one else can even come close to Michelle. No one else can even come close to Elise. And that's what we bring. And it's beautiful. Um, but when you think that another woman has something that you don't have, and you blame her instead of asking yourself why you don't have this thing, why you want this thing. So something I think about is sometimes I still have, but I go through FOMO sometimes, and I go through wanting friends. I have friends, but sometimes I have felt alone in my life. Um, and I would, especially with like social media and stuff, if a bad thought comes in my mind about someone that I see on social media, I immediately delete them. Um, and it's not out of disliking them. It's more about me not being able to handle my own thoughts. And no one needs the evil eye. Nobody else needs that. I don't need that. So let's just end it there. But before I learned this lesson, I would look at people and be like, I'm cool. Come on, guys. Like I'm cool too. And and I felt the sister wound a lot until I addressed that part in myself. Until I addressed that part of myself, I wasn't able to see another woman with friends doing things and not be like, oh, I wasn't invited. And it's like, well, would you go? Probably not. I wouldn't have gone. I just had a past life and I had trouble letting that go. So yeah, and whenever you realize that we're all walking each other home, like we're all hand in hand on this journey, then the sister wound can uh, feel more healed.
Yeah, yeah, I like that, and I think of it often, and I think of myself when I was in the same boat as you, and how I look at the world and other people and, you're longing for something, um, but you're not even quite sure why you're longing for it. It's a really strange thing, and I think we've also talked about this too, but, like, I've always found throughout my life, even when I was younger, I always had a harder time becoming close with other females. And I don't know if it was, I mean, it's a subconscious thing. It was maybe being self conscious, whatever. I just always found myself resonating more with men and being able to have easier friendships, feeling more welcomed more easily with men versus women. And once you brought the sister wound thing up to me, it kind of made me think about all these instances in my life where I felt the same way. It was like left out, and it was usually other girls making me feel that way. And it's a really interesting thing because I imagine that there's a brother wound as well, because if there's a sister wound, there's a brother wound. And just like there's the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and neither can exist without the other one, I also feel these wounds need to be in existence in order for us to transcend and be able to realize that we are good enough. You don't need to look like everyone else or be invited to every party or whatever, because it's not even realistic. We're not meant to like everybody, and everybody's not meant to like us. Everybody's a different cup of tea, kind of like what we're talking about. But now, as I've learned about the sister wound, I've been able to, even in recent times, like when I'm seeing another woman being triggered by something that at one time triggered me, I feel like I just even try subconsciously to, like, send her messages of, "I know where you're at. I know what you're feeling because 'cause I've been there." And you can see it pure, like clear as day, when you've kind of gone to the other side and you see somebody just be triggered, even if it's a man too, you can kind of see it. But I think woman to woman, man to man, you can see it more. And I think just like holding space for these people is kind of all you can do, because as we were talking about before, you're not going to convince anybody that they're good enough or whatever until they learn and realize that they are. And I just love the concept of this because it's helped me a lot. It's helped me a lot over the last 6 months since you brought it up, because there's been situations that have arisen just here on our homestead that I've had to put up boundaries with, and this and that and the other thing, and then realizing all this stuff. And it's just been really healing for me. So I just wanted to thank you for bringing that into my sphere. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you about it, because I think it's just really, really important for people to understand this stuff and how it really affects all of us all at the same
Yeah.
time.
And if you look at what gets projected into the minds of the masses with movies and TV and social media, and I think of Mean Girls. Like, I think of like, oh, the cheerleaders. Like, I wanted to be a cheerleader so bad. I wanted to be in the cool crowd so bad. So much so that I never fully realized, like, found myself as a human. Like, I didn't want quirky traits. Like, I just wanted to fit in. Because these like, I had a realization the other day that movies desensitize our minds to what's actually happening in front of us. Um, and it's like you get that sweet kiss in the rain, but as it's happening, you're thinking of the kiss in the rain in the Notebook. And you're like, wow, that was just like the Notebook. And you weren't even experiencing what was happening to you. And so we're living our life through media in a way, if you let it. And so with the sister wound, it's almost like growing up, you watch something with the cool crowd. You were in pre-K, there wasn't even a cool crowd, but some part of you internalized it, and now you want to be with these people. Or just the phrases that come to mind thinking about it. Like, you don't even, ooh, you so nasty. Like, you don't even care. Like, you're like always gossiping and talking about someone else. And through doing that, you're never bettering yourself. So you're just scraping down at your wounds. And as for men, I feel like it's always like football guy and nerdy class guy, and he gets beat up all the time, and you're always going to be beat up, kid, unless you win $1 million. And then you get people in like CEOs and stuff like that. It's interesting how many of these things get placed inside of us, and we have no idea that it's happening, and we're just walking out a script through our daily life. And then becoming conscious of that and recognizing that there is no woman competition. I'm not sitting here trying to make myself seem better in a way for someone else. Like, you just have to be who you are, and your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yeah.
There you go. I got a t-shirt that says it. And,
That's great.
Yeah.
It's so true, man. And so if it is, and you get back what you put out, and that is so freaking real. Yeah, dude, I love this topic. I really do. And I just think that I'm so grateful to have met you, because you have really helped me to put so many things together. And I'm just really stoked. I'm stoked for what you're doing. I'm excited for you and James. I think you guys are just doing really great work. And I'm really happy that we've been able to come together and kind of talk a little bit more and share our thoughts about this whole subject matter. And I feel like we could kind of go on for a while and have multiple conversations, because it's so deep. And I feel like the more people that begin talking about this stuff and can kind of see the importance of it, the more we're going to be healing both sides. Because I think that there's so many things that have just been projected on us, and the first thing that always comes to mind is feminism and the whole breaking up of the family and the burning of the bras and the this and the that, and kind of like just yeah, oh yeah, woman, you're not empowered because you're in the kitchen, or whatever. It's really interesting, and I feel like there is a new resurgence of people kind of coming back to this more traditional way of living, and realizing that we have roles and they're both really important. And I can just say from personal experience, when I stepped into my role as just being more in my divine feminine, it not only improved my life, but it improved Mario's life. And then it was just like, oh, crow, whoa. Like he was able to then step into his divine masculine even more. And then we were just watching just this beautiful thing happen before our eyes almost. And it was kind of like, whoa, this is kind of like the thing that we've been waiting for. And it wasn't until though we kind of like both just assumed those roles and were okay with it, and like totally went away from what what society is telling us to do, which would be me working 40 hours plus, him working 40 hours plus. Then no one's taking care of the home, no one's taking care of anything else. No, the children are at school, the children are at daycare, the state's raising your kids. You have the money, but it's all in credit cards, so you actually don't have money. And you know what I mean? It's this whole thing that I do feel that there are more people waking up to it. And then I see something online and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm wrong, maybe they aren't waking up to it. But all I know is that I can see the benefits. I see the benefits in people like you and James having the same outlook, and other people in our community of folk that are around. And I see the benefits happening, and I see the happiness that comes from it. And to me, it just feels right. And I can't even say, I almost can't even express how right it felt when I finally made those decisions. And when I heard Mario was the one that was like, you need to, I want you to quit your job. Like, you shouldn't be working. Like, look at what's happening here. Like, you go to work however many hours to come home, and then you're like crabby, or then it's like you're venting about work. And it's not like my paychecks weren't like huge things. It's like, I'm working at like soap shop. Loved it. Great experience. But all the time spent was time away from developing our homestead, our lives together, and just like creating. And so I see that too, with men. Kind of like, I think there's a program letting having men feel like the women should be working, and they can't see the value of like what it would be like if you actually just were able to figure it out and allow her to be at home and raise the children and be there and like standing
Yeah.
in her power.
I always say that I feel like a queen because I'm like, all I have to do is, I mean, I have to clean and stuff. And I'm like, I have to cook and I hang out with our kids. Like, I don't have to leave the house. I, I get whatever I want and need. And it's not like, oh, I get whatever I want. Like, we live a very humble life. Like, I want 40 pounds of onions from Missouri because we haven't been able to have a successful onion crop. So, like, that's what I want. I'm like, I want sweet potatoes and onions, and I need gelatin to make marshmallows. What else? Like, can I have this book? Like that. And it's so funny because we're very close to New Orleans, and New Orleans is a very progressive city. And I know a lot of people there, and the women work, and they're crabby, and they're like, oh, I wish, I wish, I just wish. I'm like, yeah, well, like, quit your job. They're like, money. I'm like, dude, we live in a what is it, 8 by 16 lawn trailer that James redid. I had a woman at our homeschool co-op ask me if the mushrooms supported us. And I was like, yeah, we both stay at home. Like, we work at our farm. Our farm is our home. Everything, it's all in one place. And she's like, oh wow, I wish. And I was like, yeah, could you live in this? And I pull a picture of our trailer, and it was funny. One woman, I was like, "Yeah, we live in a trailer," and she thought I meant a mobile home, like a double wide or a single wide. And she saw, and she was like, "Oh, that's small." I'm like, "It is." Like, tiny houses are not for the faint of heart. They are for people with, like, we didn't do it to be cool. We did it to not be in debt. And and we're not in debt. And I'm like, I'm not chasing anything. Like, we're not scrambling. I'm so grateful for that. All of this was James's idea. I was like, take me wherever. I don't care. I love you. And then I saw the importance of it, because I see women outside of this and how they feel having debt and paying rent and doing things that are completely unfulfilling, wanting to be home, like not having a creative outlet, uh, and they're sinking and they feel like they're drowning.
Yeah.
Um, and so you can do it. Your life might just look different, but it cuts out things that you don't need. Like, our frivolous expense is buying apples from Missouri Standard so I can can them. Like, it's like, oh, 40 pounds of apples. Dude, you always got to buy bulk. I'm like, we have 25 pounds of rice right now. Like, we're not going hungry. We got rice. And I always tell a story because James grew up poor. I did not grow up poor. I was very well taken care of. Steak and lobster and sushi all the time. Like, I had a huge house. Did not grow up poor. And whenever we first started this business, we bought 25 pounds of rice, and we were getting 3 eggs from our chickens. And so we had eggy rice for a long time. Each of us had an egg. Ja had an egg, James had an egg, and I had an egg. And we had rice and butter. And I was having a real tough time. I was like, we're starving to death. And James was like, no, we're not. Like, rice will fill you up pretty good. You're
Mm.
not starving. And it took me a long time to figure out what was going on inside of my mind. I was like, oh, I just feel so, and I was like, oh, we don't have many. I was like, oh, like, I'm not used to this. I'm not used to budgeting. I've never had to budget. I've never had to do anything. Like, I've never had to do anything. And I can't just go out and like buy sushi or buy a pack of meat or buy this thing that I want or get clothes. Or, like, it was so funny. The first time we like made a profit, we went and bought socks. And I was like, that's when you know you're making it. You can buy socks. Like, we just bought 20 pairs of socks for Ja. And like, whoa. And I was like, oh, I get it. Like, if you want to make something happen, you can make it happen. You just might have to sacrifice. And it changed. Like, living in Nepal did that to us, because we saw what you actually needed. You don't even really need electricity. Like, I washed our clothes in a stream, all of them, blankets included, like, in a bucket, in a bowl outside, whenever we were in the city, in the stream, in the village. Like, you don't need much. You don't need much. The things that we get now that are fun items for us are foodstuffs, because I really like sweet potatoes. Our sweet potato harvest this year, all of them were like the size of my pinky. So we've been baking them, smashing them, and frying them in butter, and they're like plantains.
Oh,
So
nice.
good. Yeah, because I've been wanting fried plantains, but there's nowhere around here to buy organic plantains or good plantains. So we haven't had them, and then we found this sweet potato hack. So fry your sweet potatoes in butter, everybody.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, the whole concept of not needing much is awesome, and I think it's something that is not very familiar to a lot of people. And one of the things that helped me realize that was fasting. When I started doing fasts and I was like, wow, I didn't eat food for 3 days. Wow. Okay, so how much food do you really need? I don't don't always have to not go, you don't always have to not eat for 3 days. But it helped me to then just ask the question, like, when you're hungry, are you really hungry? Or are you feeling like you are emotionally starved for some reason? Or, what are you feeding? Are you feeding just because you're bored? Are you feeding because, yeah, it's an emotional thing or whatever? So just put into a perspective a lot of things along that level. And I think too, just like living more simply, most of the time, the people who are doing that are a lot happier. That's what I've come to realize. That's what I see in a lot of people, even just like yourself, even just explaining it. There's something too about just like the satisfaction that comes from knowing you have the self control to live that way, or to just like be a little more frugal and understand that, okay, we have this much. So we portion it out and we're smart, and you don't just, kind of throw it all away or make huge things of whatever that you're not going to eat. Cause how much food is just like made or ordered and thrown away? There's just this excess of everything. And so I think just like coming back, being more simple, finding your role, being okay with it, being comfortable, is one of the best things you can do for that. Because like for me personally, like it took me a good long while to not even have guilt for doing that. Like I had a lot of guilt around it because I was like, oh man, I'm not bringing in money right now or whatever. And then Mario would always remind me, he's like, you might not be bringing in money, but what you're doing brings value. Like you're doing the things that like are keeping us healthy, and you're feeding us, and you're making just like a nurturing space. And so like to not we just correlate everything to money. I think money is just, if you're not making money, then you're not good enough or you're not providing enough, and that's not always the thing. And I think that's just this huge paradigm shift that can happen.
It's funny because I had to, like, I don't look at our bank account. I can't. I'm like, I'm not good with money. I don't do it. I'm like, James, can I get this? And he's like, just wait. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I know I I get too anxious about it. I'm like, oh God. He's like, and not look. And what helps is seeing it as this energetic flow. Like, it's not that you don't have money. Maybe you need to put something out into the world in order to receive something back.
Right.
And we have been living this super tiny lifestyle. And I was trying to get James to build me a deck off of the tiny house. I was like, build me a deck. That way the kitchen can go outside. We can have a place for the kids to play and put a roof over it, screened in porch. Build me a deck. And I'm measuring out this deck, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, geez, I don't know what's going on here. And James asked me if I'd be open to just not building the deck and him building us a house, moving some sheds off of this concrete slab, and he builds us a house. And I was like, that'd be great. I would love it. Thank you so much. I'm over it. I did the tiny thing. I appreciate it. I get its purpose. I understand the purpose of it. And I also realized how slapping a Band-Aid deck on it would have been limiting to our potential to receive so much more. And how it might take 3 years to build this house, but we are patient peoples. We have lived without a lot, and not let the energy come to you. Like I always say, like, I'm not afraid of money and I'm not afraid of sugar. I used to be afraid of sugar. I used to be like, don't you put, I'm not even doing kombucha. And now I'm like, what? I get it. Like German new medicine, like that whole concept, whenever she started talking about maybe the thing you ate, it wasn't that it was like so bad for you. Maybe you just have a trauma with it. I'm like, I don't know about that, because there's some things that I know are pretty bad for me, but I see where you're going and I like the direction.
Yeah, dude, totally. Yes, yes, yes. All of it. This is great. I'm so happy. I'm so happy you shared your story with that side of things, because, everything. I'm just happy that we've been able to talk and get into this a little bit more. But we are almost at that 2-hour mark. So
Yes.
I feel like we've hit on some really great points. I feel like I did Yeah, this was awesome. I feel like I want to talk to you again because I think that there's a lot more we can go into and everything else. But before we leave, can you please let everybody know again where they can find you and how they can support you guys and all of that good stuff?
Yeah, familyfungi.net, all your mushroom needs. We have a lion's mane pancake mix called Brain Cakes. I need to put it up on the website. I haven't yet, but just DM us. I'll get you some pancake mix. It's delicious. Coffee, mushroom supplements, grow blocks, everything there. And then you can email through that if you just want to talk to me. Or the Outpost Homestead on Instagram. You can DM me and we can have a good chat. I do consultations and I can help you with your birth, with your postpartum, whatever you need. Even if you're uh, far away, I can still support you in whatever you desire. Uh, Mother Nature Bear on the Bertaria Times app. And so, yeah, you supporting me, supporting us builds me a house, guys. So, I'm not afraid of it anymore. Let's get Elise a house.
Yes. I like that. Let's get you a
Yeah.
house, lady. And that's
It's
that's
so
so
funny.
beautiful too that James was just like, "You know what? I'll build you a house."
He
I
said he's got 2 houses in him. He can build me 2 houses, and it's in our lifetime together. He said he's got 2 houses in him. So,
Oh, man,
let's do
that's so
it.
awesome. Dude, and that's the beauty too of the stability that comes from the male. I mean, the masculine side of things, that is another whole show, I'm sure, but it's just like that stability, that pole, that very astute sort of energy is what a woman needs. A woman needs it because we are chaos. There is this chaotic energy that comes from women, and it's not even a bad thing. It's just what it is. And then the man comes in is just like, boom, nope,
Yeah,
let's solidify this. So,
yeah.
thing of beauty. Well, that's awesome. I have all of Elise's and Family Fungi's links down below, so you guys can go and find them. I am going to let Elise go because I've held her captive for 2 hours now. But I have a
Thank
few
you.
updates and announcements that I'll share with you guys if you want to hang out. But until next time, Elise, thank you so much for coming. I just love what you're doing. I love your energy. I love your honesty. Everything that you've got going on. You're going to help a lot of ladies. I can feel it. And I know you already have because you've helped me and you've helped yourself. And that's huge. So thank you so much for all you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. Have a lovely evening.
I will.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.
All righty. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Whoa. Well, that was cool. Oh my goodness. I'm just grateful for women like Elise and people who are just doing it and trying to make things work, trying to make the world a better place and helping themselves so they can help other people. That's one of the main goals with this podcast is to highlight people who are doing this work and share their wealth with everybody else. And I have a couple updates for you guys. If you guys are still here, thank you everyone who hung out. Um, I kind of have not been in the chat at all, but I really appreciate you guys. And I hope you guys have been having some really nice conversations with everybody in there. And so I have, like I said, just a couple announcements. So next week, I've got Kyle of Tippy Canoe Herbs is coming on. I'm very, very stoked for this show. We are going to be talking about the winter solstice and we're going to be talking about herbs of the sun because the solstice will be the next day. At least, the solstice they tell us is coming anyway, but we're going to talk about that and I cannot wait. So that will be next week, the 20th of December at 4 p.m. And I released my full moon offerings newsletter last week. So it is issue 27 that just came out. And the offering this month is my CBD whip, I'm calling it. It's a body butter. I'm very excited about this blend. I've already gotten some really positive feedback about it. Mario and I have been using it Yeah, it's just freaking great stuff. It's wonderful for the winter because it's super moisturizing. It has the CBD in it, so you can use it as a muscle rub if you've got sore muscles or joints. It's very calming to the system. And I've got 2 scents, orange cedar wood, and I have a geranium and patchouli. And I've got, let me see, how many do I have left? I have 3 each, 3 of each left. So there's that. And then just wanted to run through with you guys my offerings that I still do have. As I just mentioned, the body whip, elderberry and reishi mushroom syrup, CBD and St. John's wort massage and body oil, antifungal and wound healing salve, black pulling salve. I have 1 left of those. My deodorant is available, lavender bergamot and juniper cedarwood. My Rest Easy tincture and anointing set. The tincture is motherwort, hops, and blue vervain. And then the anointing oil is a fresh lavender infused oil that smells amazing and just came out really nicely. And I have fresh herb tinctures, 1 ounce. I've got mugwort, motherwort, St. John's wort, blue vervain, and lemon balm all available for you guys. So if you are interested in any of those remedies, you can email me, michelleshealinghome@gmail.com. You can reach out to me on Instagram. You can head to my website as well. I'm offering consultations, which you can learn about on the website. If you want to check out my latest newsletter issue and you don't feel like signing up for it, totally cool. You can go to my newsletter tab, and I have all of my issues archived there on my newsletter page. So you can go through the whole collection. You can just go to the most current one, whichever tickles your fancy. And if you want to text me, you can reach me at 503-568-1569. And yeah, with that said, I just want to say thank you again to everyone who tuned in today. And I look forward to more episodes. I look forward to sharing some more information, more wisdom from other people with all of you. So tune in next week and we'll be talking some solstice herbs with Kyle of Tippy Canoe Herbs. So until then, I wish you guys a lovely evening and take care. Thank you again.